time for me to bring you today's fixtures around the world of sports, starting from the English Premier League in England. Crystal Palace hosting Leeds United at the Selhurst Park, and then it ended in a goalless draw, 0-0, of which Leeds United had red card. That was Gabriel Goodmanson that had the red card for Leeds United, which ended in a 0-0 draw. So the match between Crystal Palace and then Leeds United ended in a 0-0 draw. Now let's head straight to Manchester United, Old Trafford. Yes, a game happened between Manchester United and then Aston Villa, of which it ended in 3-1 in favor of Manchester United. Manchester United scored 3 and then Aston Villa scored 1. That was Casemiro, Sesko, and then Matheus Cunha. And Omunya saw 3 goals no Edema Manchester United. Abrante Fen Barkley and then 1 goal no Edema Aston Villa. So it ended in a 3-1 win. Now let's head straight to the City ground. That is Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. It ended also in a goalless draw, 0-0. So the stadium for Nottingham Forest is called City ground. It ended in a 0-0. Before we were coming to the studio, it was Liverpool versus Tottenham, of which Liverpool had 1 goal. That's first half. Liverpool Ashabapo. I'm a Tottenham into as at first half and I studio. Straight to Spain. That's the Spanish La Liga. Now let's start with the Mallorca versus Espanyol. Mallorca scored 2, Espanyol scored 1. So it was 2-1 in favor of Mallorca. Now let's go straight to the Spotify Camp Nou. That's Barcelona hosting Sevilla. And then Barcelona scored 5. Sevilla were able to score 2. So it was 5-2 in favor of Barcelona. Branch FN Rafinha. And you had 3 goals. That's hat-trick. Daniel Mosso the Bako count. And a Joao Cancelo. So the Bako count money 5. And Sevilla for social media. I'm a 5-2 in favor of Barcelona. And then still, they are the league toppers. Yes, on the league of which Real Madrid is at the second. And then as you all know, football is a game. Now this evening at Estadio Benito Villamarín, that's Real Betis for stadium. No? Real Betis will be hosting Celta Vigo at that venue today. That's Estadio Benito Villamarín. And then this evening also, Real Sociedad will be hosting Osasuna. That's the Real Arena. Yes, that's the stadium name for Real Sociedad. Now let's go to the Italian Serie A. Verona also hosted Genoa. Verona 14 if Genoa for the show may come into Manti. So it ended in 0-2. That's in favor of Genoa. Genoa Shemiunu. Verona for into Manti. Now Pisa also invited or hosted Cagliari. Pisa scored 3. Cagliari also scored 1. That was also the fixtures coming from there. Now Sassuolo also invited Bologna. Sassuolo 14 if to answer the Fred Bologna. It ended in a 0-1. That was Bologna winning a single goal to 0. Sassuolo couldn't even score 1 goal. Now this evening, or as at now, before we were coming, Como hosted Roma. And then before we enter studios, Como 0, Roma 1. As at now, yes, at the Grayson Singlari Park. Now this evening also, Lazio will be hosting AC Milan. That was the Stadio Olimpico. Yeah, that was the stadium name for Lazio, Stadio Olimpico. They'll be hosting them this evening. Now let's go to the German Bundesliga. That's Bremen hosted Mainz 05. Bremen 0, Mainz 05 2. Freiburg also hosted Union Berlin. As at now, before we are entering straight, was 0-0. Now this evening, Stuttgart will be hosting Leipzig in this evening's fixtures in the German Bundesliga. Now on to the last game of the German Bundesliga for this week. That's Stuttgart versus Leipzig. Yeah, that will be the last game for this match weekend. Now let's head straight to the French Ligue 1. That's Strasbourg versus Paris FC. And ended in a goalless draw, 0-0 between Strasbourg and Paris FC. Now let's go to Le Havre versus Lyon. That's this evening. They'll be playing this evening. And then Mike versus Toulouse. Before we enter studio, it was 2-2. Yes, it was 2-2. Goals will be on. Now this evening also, Rennes will be hosting Lille or the Lille in the last game for this week's French Ligue 1. And then as you all know, this is the afternoon update. After all the matches have been played, we'll also come in and give you all the full details, all the full fixtures. We'll be breaking down Barcelona's game against Sevilla, giving you all the tactical approach Hansi Flick used in today's game approach, because he will be playing against Newcastle in the second leg of the Champions League. So please stay tuned. We'll be back with our next episode.